Scott from SE Landscaping. New surroundings today. I am down the unit. It is early morning, Wednesday before Christmas, raining outside, and we've got about an hour till it gets light. So I've been promising an advertising video of how I advertise my business in the early days and what worked for me, and that's what I'm bringing you today, guys. So I'll run you through how we started. What basically, we didn't have a budget, although you always need an advertising budget. On day one, we didn't have a budget for anything. Didn't have a budget for equipment. You go out and you make do with what you can get in the form of equipment to get you off the ground. Yes, it has to be fit for purpose, so it has to be professional. You can't go cutting 50,000 square meters with domestic stuff. So the advertising at the start was a limited budget. And at the start, as most of you guys know, yes, I had this commercial contract that was starting, but I needed cash in quick. And cash in quick isn't 30-day payments. Cash in quick is gardening and garden services. So I'll run you through the basics of what I started off with, and I'll run you through a few bits and pieces and just give you an explanation on each. So stay tuned. So this, guys, was the first A5 flyer I had produced, and basically what I was doing while I was working on my first commercial site that I picked up on a night. I was delivering these for 3 or 4 hours a night after work, so finishing work at 5 and home, a bit of tea, and then straight back out. And basically, it just included the name of the company at the time, which I was catering for the SE Landscaping, so I was catering for the landscaping works as well as garden services. I included on there that the staff had experience in the trade, which ticks all the boxes. And then just a few things to get people in, really, at the time. I'm talking, this is getting on for nearly 15 years ago now, remember. Grass cutting from £5, and that was sort of an old person's bungalow. Basically would have been £5, but and then the regular maintenance, which was at £15 an hour. So it was getting people in at those sort of prices. But this, like I said, this was 15 years ago, so the £15 an hour was a reasonable rate for that in the day. And then just a list of the disciplines underneath of what work we were carrying out at the time. And on the bottom was obviously free estimates, which people want, so they're not having to pay for you to come out, and phone numbers. Now you'll notice 2 phone numbers on the bottom there, and the reason there's 2 phone numbers on the bottom I will explain in a minute. So what you find with phone numbers, guys, I don't know if it's all around the country, but in the northeast, people see a van with a mobile number on, especially in our trade, and straight away they think traveller gypsy. And when you're driving, as I was back in the day, transit pickup, you need some kind of reassurance for people, and that's a landline. And a landline gives people somewhere where they can track and trace you if anything goes wrong. Like I say, all the guys drive around magnetic signs or whatever, and a mobile number. And how do you know that once they've left your site, those conifers aren't in a lay-by? So that's the good reason of having a phone number and a landline. People have a bit more reassurance that yes, we can track them. Same as if you're doing a landscaping job, we can track them if there's a problem. If we're putting gravel down and we don't put the membrane down and the weeds pop up 3 months later, you're chasing a mobile number that someone might renew every 3 months because of the shoddy work, whereas the landline, they can track you. Usually you go on the internet, you Google that landline, and it'll pop up with an address as well, so it's traceable. And that's I would strongly suggest people do have a landline number rather than just a mobile number. Some people might disagree with that, but in the northeast especially, it is something that you need. So moving on from the basic A5 leaflet that we got produced, as soon as I had money rolling in and there was enough to look at getting something better, I decided I would design a basic A5 brochure on my computer. Now there was no design company involved because I didn't have the budget again, but I needed something that would tick the boxes. And as I'd done a couple of commercial jobs in the first 6 to 8 months, and as I'd done a few nursing homes and other things, I designed an A5 brochure myself, very basic. I was taking photos of every job that I was on, and I came up with this following design, which I'll run you through now. So this, guys, was the A5 brochure, and I was still with the SE Landscaping and Garden Services. Now, they established 2005. At the time, I established at the end of 2006. The reason I had established 2005 is because I was doing a few jobs, as most of you guys do, when I worked for my previous company on a night, and I was going under the name of SE Landscaping at the time. So I hung with that, and as well as that, it sort of gives people a bit of reassurance that I haven't just appeared last week. I've been around for a couple of years, so it sort of ticked that box. And then I came up with a catchy logo at the bottom, making the northeast greener, which was just something I used at the time. Now, this picture, as I mentioned previous, this was the first site that we ever got, which was HMRC in Newcastle. And these trees were planted on the entrance to the site, and that at the time was a really good photo to have on the front of the brochure. As we open the brochure up, there's a little bit about us, about how we were established, and about quickly establishing a solid client base, and a list of basic disciplines, what we do. And then subheadings with grounds maintenance, which included the grass cutting, the pruning, the weeding. And there's a shot of our first grounds maintenance contract, which was a hotel that we maintained. So that just gives people an idea of the quality of the work and everything. The bushes all tidy near the windows and the grass mown short. Recent projects, I did, as I explained, clash a few contracts out quite quickly. So as soon as I got a few big names on there, I put them in the brochure. And by big names, when you've got people like Balfour Beatty, Porter Cabin, Cleveland Bridge, Premier Travelling, those names are well-known household names, and they tick boxes for people who think, oh, this guy is working for some large companies, he must know what he's doing. Over the page was a before and after. This was a nursing home, just a small paving, 2-day paving job with a few planters. They wanted somewhere where the residents could just drive out and touch plants in wheelchairs. So we did these raised beds and put lavenders and things in for scent, so people could drive down the path, it would smell nice. And it was just a basic, very cheap job, but it ticked the boxes, and it also helped me get some more photos for my brochure. On health and safety, I've been very lucky with the health and safety, and I shall go on to that in a little bit. There's a piece about training, which just explains that the company invests in training. It does invest in training. If we need anything, or if any of the guys need anything, then I will put them through courses. A bit about environmental, just explain that we do recycle everything. All our waste at the time was going to a local recycling company who turned it into compost. And another subheading for customer care, about our own in-house quality system, which I would go out and inspect the work afterwards to make sure it was up to standard. A piece about references, that I could provide references because I was slowly building a client base of happy people who would write me a reference. And another picture of the Long Benton HMRC site there. By putting the HMRC site sign in there, it's the same again. It ticks a good box with a large company. And then on the back, I was asked by Balfour Beatty to seed this area, that they'd just put a new bridge in and they'd installed these boulders, so I thought that was a reasonable shot for putting on the back. This was in a site in Hartlepool. And then at the bottom, at the time, it was a home address, it was a basic email address, and it was the phone numbers and everything. So there was a point of contact for people. So coming back to the health and safety, guys, it has been a big plus point that my father is a fully qualified health and safety officer of 20 years, and I don't just mean a basic course. I mean, if he was a football team, he would be winning the Champions League. So that really ticked the box that I could go to him, he could visit sites, he could talk to people, even on the biggest of sites, and he would know what he was talking about. I didn't have to employ a consultant who would charge me for risk assessments, method statements, cost assessments and things. He did it all, he knew it all, and it was a big plus point for me to establish a business based on it. It was one bit of luck that I must say it has been really beneficial, that I could just go to him, I could take him out on a site, or I could Google Earth something, and he could come up with risk assessments overnight. And basically that does really tick a box. Health and safety is a big thing in today's industry, and that worked. So that's just a brief explanation of the health and safety in our first brochure. So moving on, in the early days, you realise quite quickly that yes, for 9 months a year, I'm really busy. What do I do in the winter? And you need to start thinking about filling gaps when you haven't got many customers, which I didn't have at the time. I could put sites to bed in half a day, and that was it for the winter. There was no extra work. Like, now I'm a big master of the upsell. I've got moss brushes, I've got things that add value, and I can do in the winter. We clean out drains and edge footpaths and things, and these were things that we didn't do in the early days, but they all fill gaps now. We do small landscaping jobs and repair jobs. So what I got done was same again, cheap and cheerful, A5 leaflets, and I will run you through the one that has worked. I've had tens of thousands of these produced over the years. I don't tend to use them anymore, and I've got a filing cabinet full of them still here, but they're always on hand if we ever need them. So this is basically the winter advertising brochure, and it's basically the company name again. And during November and February, we are carrying out the following works: tree surgery, hedge pruning and removal. And then by then I had a website which people could visit. And basically that's just a basic thing that people are looking in the winter, and when these drop through the door, sometimes people look out the window and think, we needed that tree pruning. And it just sends something into the mind that yes, our hedge is looking out of hand. It's 2 weeks before Christmas. Why don't we get it tidied up? Or why don't we look after Christmas to see if we've got a budget where we can get something maintained in the garden? So that basic leaflet we used for 3 or 4 seasons, and it proved quite profitable. It was the same again, end of September, October. I was going out and putting them through doors on a night, and by then I had an employee, and he was also doing it. If we had a slack day, I would go onto the site and he would go out putting leaflets out. And leaflets have a small, let's just say, have a small return on investment. You have to deliver a lot of leaflets. But if you put, say, 100 leaflets through a door and you get one pruning job, which might be £100, the 100 leaflets and the time on your feet, yes, you'll probably break even on that first job. But if you can turn it into 2%, then you're making money. And I found you sort of 3 to 5% with these leaflets. We were turning around that sort of investment. We were turning around that sort of profit, so they were profitable after year 1, and that's why we kept doing it year 2, 3, and 4. If it was something that didn't work, I would have moved on and found something else. But leaflets they do pay, guys. They don't work for everybody. I've heard people say we've had nothing back off them, but it's targeted, it's putting it out at the right time, and it's putting it out to the right people. So, for instance, you wouldn't walk down a row of tourist houses and put these leaflets in, would you? You would look for large gardens, and not so much. Don't think that because a garden's well maintained that they won't want your services. You still put a leaflet through. That man in that house could be 80-year-old, and he could love his garden and do as much as he can, but there could be trees he can't prune. There could be hedges he can't reach. And that could be a client who just gets you in for the odd job that he can't do, but it's a job that he needs you for. So don't be put off by someone having a nice garden and saying, we'll leave that one, they're all sorted. They're not always all sorted. And it's the same again, they might have a gardener and he might not be up to scratch. He might be doing 90%, but they want 95 or 100%. So you could still pick up work from it. As I explained, by then I had a basic website which is no longer active. I have a better website which has the same link as on the leaflet, which I'll put up above now. At the time, it was a basic website that mirrored the brochure that I had. So there was very little on there, but it ticked the box again. People could look on there and see examples of the work. So I could ring somebody up as a cold call and say, look, we've got a website, just have a look and see if there's anything we can help you with. Now our website is more professional. It does well on Google and things in our area, and it gets us work. At times it's bad because, like I say, we're going into a lean year next year where I don't want to pick up a huge amount of work because we've had a successful year this year. I want to build gradually on this year. The problem is I'm still getting phone calls, but then you don't want to remove your website or anything like that. So I am getting phone calls and we are getting emails currently for work that potentially, yes, I don't really want huge amounts of volume of work next year. So websites do tick a box. They are expensive and you do need to keep them up there. You do need to either know what you're doing with computers or employ a company who are good with SEO, because your channel, your website can very, very quickly slip down the rankings and be lost in the search engines and everything. So you need to find somebody. I mean, initially I spent £3,000 on the good website. The basic one, I spent a few £100 and a guy designed it and that was it. It didn't do a lot, but it was there as reference. The new one that I spent £3,000 on, I was then spending £200 a month to keep it up in the ratings. Not so much now because we're established. Like I say, we are not looking for a huge amount of work. If it gets to the point, I'll start spending money on the website and getting it back up the rankings. But to be fair, we haven't spent money on SEO over the last year and it still does well and it still gets up the ratings. So that's a bit about the website. Moving on, I managed to get a better brochure, which I'll run you through now. You'll have to excuse the front cover. It's been a bit worn. It's been in the filing cabinet and looking at it, it's probably got a bit wet. But it's basically a nice mown lawn with our name on the front. And then opening up, same again, a bit about us. And we've got our man there who was my first employee, just hoeing a few winter flower beds on a main street. Our first setup there, which was if you can see for the light, a transit van, a rover, a hustler, fast track machine and the trailer, and that's how we got by in the early days. Same again, a scope of works and a client base and a nice play area there that we maintained that looks top drawer. And just other stuff. Sports pitches, schools. We were using a subcontractor with the tractor work at the time. Line marking. So the sports pitches were a full package. Over to the landscaping section, a brief insight of what we do, the planting and the turfing, etc. And then a couple of shots with the hotels and a brief idea of what hotel work we carried out. And then onto grounds maintenance. So it's just really a brief brochure, but of the same small brochure we originally had, but just with more disciplines that we started to do and better photos. Obviously we've got a guy there strimming, our second employee, and he's there in all his full PPE on a site. So if that man's looking out the window, he knows that we're doing everything we should. And then at the time, our first council contract, and this was for a company called Chiltern Town Council. And we were currently 5 years through we were currently part of the way, through a 5-year contract which we landed with them. And at the bottom is just a brief piece that we won Britain in Bloom Awards for that council. And that really ticks a box. Britain in Bloom Awards, I'll come on to in a minute. We were doing also winter maintenance with our subcontractor on his tractor for sites so that we could do a full package with the sites. And our first council contract included Christmas lights. So basically we were putting Christmas lights up on lampposts and Christmas trees up. At the time I brought in some experts before doing a qualification myself and bringing in another guy who could drive a cherry picker, and that meant that we could do this job in-house because we were fully qualified to do it. A small part on public rights of way, which have been really good to us. We maintain something in the region of about 30 miles of public rights of way at the moment. That could be from repairing gates to actually cutting new paths in or maintaining the existing paths to a decent standard so people can walk in the summer. Still sticking with the private work that we do, still do private work, just a small piece on it. And at the bottom, a few jobs where we've put up a new fence and a bit of turf. Small section on Arbor, same again. We used to hire a chipper in and do the tree felling. And I also did a course on playground inspections, which meant I could go out and inspect play areas, which is really important with the health and safety. Same again, the health and safety, the environmental, customer care, training and references on a page, which really ticked the box. And a logo there for Bally, which was at the time Landscape and Industries basically standard. And we were a member of Bally originally, and various things with it I didn't like, and I realised quite quickly that I didn't need it. So we never renewed our Bally membership. A lot of people swear by it, but it didn't really do anything a lot for us in our area. There was a couple of large companies who were Bally registered, and they sort of picked up the work. So it was a bit of, for the huge outlay, it was a bit of wasted money really. And then a couple of our first awards at the bottom. And then just a back cover, same again, address and everything on the bottom. You'll have to excuse the brochure. It is the only one I've got left from back in the day. So yeah, that was the first brochure that we managed to get done, and it worked well. In the wintertime, what I would do is I would buy a couple of hundred stamps, well, probably 500 stamps. The brochures would go in an envelope with a cover and letter, and I would send them to industrial estates locally and local councils and things. And I had a good success rate with them. And with that brochure, yes, it was more expensive than the A5 because I got that done properly. A company actually, a well-known local company actually produced them, and they looked the part. So as your business expands, you need to look better. It's the same as in the early days. We used to wear high vis with our company logo on. Now we have fleeces with our logo on. We have high vis. So whenever in the winter we have this and a high vis all labelled up. In the summer, when your clothes come off, you're labelled up still, so people can constantly see who you are. An image is a big thing in this trade. So basically that form of advertising got us through the early days and got us through probably the first sort of 10 years. Like I say, the website's improved over time, and then you start to look more locally. And a lot of business parks have business magazines. So I took out an advertisement with a local guy who did a business magazine in the area, and in with the price of a small ad in that brochure every month explaining what we do, you get a centre spread where he does a write-up on you, which I'll run you through now. So this was me stood on one of our sites with a couple of our vehicles, and this was also me stood on our site with one of the people we were working for. Now you'll recognise the company there, Crafter's Companion. This lady is now a dragon on Dragon's Den, and she has also built a business up from her bedroom into a multinational business. And when she moved onto these premises, we were her first port of call, and we've looked after the site ever since. And the guy basically just gave us a write-up of just bigging the company up, really, explaining what we do and explaining how we've how the company's grown. At the time, we were turning over £200,000 that year, and there's also a couple of pictures with a couple of our employees who will currently maintain the site, and then just a brief bit at the bottom on our future plans. So that small piece of advertising, which for the year I believe it was around £1,000 for the advertising per month. And this was the biggest. This is Aycliffe Industrial Estate. This is the biggest industrial estate in County Durham, in our area. And at the time, I had 6 customers on that estate, just small units. We now look after 21 individual customers on that estate. And that is sort of testament to this brochure. That £1,000 in that year paid for itself, because it's a reference. You can say to people, yes, you get the Aycliffe magazine. Have you seen our advertisement in there? Is there anything we can help you with? I did do a bit of cold calling on some sites that were a bit substandard, which we picked up. Other sites, if you see somebody on the move, if you see a new company coming in, you need to be straight in there to get the business. And like I say, those clients, a lot of these clients we will have forever. We won't lose these clients. They're happy with what we do, and I've got good working relationships with these people. So that was a good form of advertisement. If you've got a local business park who have some kind of an advertisement or an advertisement board or a website, try and get on that site. If it's not out of your budget, it is worth doing. And then last year, the brochure that you saw earlier for our business, we just needed to freshen it up a bit. So we needed to get a few more photos on and freshen the front cover up from just a basic bit of grass. So what we did, we invested again. I went to see the guy who produced our brochure originally, and he came up with a better design, and I'll run you through that now. So front cover, still the same with our title at the top. Grounds maintenance and landscaping specialist, and a shot of a roadside flower bed, which looks really good. This was a contract that won a silver medal for us, so I thought that would tick the box. Same again, planted tubs on a village green that we plant up. We cut the grass and we also paint bollards, and this was ready for Britain in Bloom visits, so everything looked tidy. Going back to our original roots, still a photo which I'm very proud of in the early days of our first bit of kit that we used to get around everything with. And just repetitive but freshened up and looking a lot better. So the same brochure but very basic. And that's all people want. They don't want anything too much in detail. They just want a brief insight of what you do. So if someone's looking for sports pitch maintenance, they just want to know that at the time we carried out maintenance for Northern League clubs down to pub level clubs and everything we did. And just some of the old photos from the olden days, as well as a few new photos. Still the same, some nice flower beds which brightens up a magazine for people. And then we've got one of our guys doing some turfing there at a site. We've got some flower bed preparation going on, which shows that we don't just plant the flowers, we actually maintain the beds and we compost them and everything. And then it's the same again. It's very repetitive from the last brochure, but it doesn't need changing much. Our trade is that of, once you have those jobs and those listed jobs, they're very repetitive, so it was just about freshening up, getting something new to drop on doorsteps. And it's the same again, playground inspections, arbour, health and safety training, and the reference section. And then just to finish off, a larger shot with an inset shot of a village, like I say, that won us a silver medal. Just a couple of the photos all in one, and then our new address at the bottom where we're based now. So yeah, I promised you guys that I would do a video on what advertisements worked for us, and You've always got to sort of keep ahead of the game with advertising. Most people use websites now, but I'm still a fan of old-fashioned things that people can get hold of, and I think a lot of businesses still are. Yes, a lot of these brochures that you send out go straight in the bin or through the shredder, but a small percentage of them, it is proven with our return on investment from these brochures that they do work. Otherwise, I wouldn't deliver them. You've got to remember that when you get these brochures produced, 500 brochures, I think, were somewhere in the region of £700. On top of that, every time you post one, you're putting a cover and letter in there. You're also putting the brochure in there. You're putting a stamp on, and you're buying an envelope. So each one of them is costing a few pounds to send out. So you do really need a decent amount of return just to get your money back. But if you're sending out 100 brochures, and that 100 brochures is, say, costing you in the region of £250, even a very, very small site that takes 20 minutes is going to make you that £250 for 14 visits in a year. So your percentage doesn't have to be huge. Don't worry if you send out 100 or something and you only get 2 back. It will still pay for itself. And if you send 100 out and you get 20 back, if you have a really good year where, I don't know, someone's retired from the trade and left an area, and that area is looking for a gardener on a site, then you're going to pick up a lot of work. So I hope the video has been informative. It is coming up to Christmas. Whether this goes out before or after Christmas, I hope all you guys have a good Christmas and a happy new year. This is really the time, I can't emphasize enough, this is the time where you need to be building. If you can spend a bit of time on a night coming up with your plan for 2021, this is the time where you need to get things in place. If you're getting brochures produced, you're going to someone in January who's probably really busy. If you're getting leaflets done, you're going to someone in January who is really busy, who probably is going to tell you that they're not going to be produced till February. So you need to strike quite quickly. Get the computer out, come up with some designs, get them sent off, get a proof back after Christmas, and get them produced as quickly as possible and get them through doors. If you're quiet in February, early February, get these leaflets out through doors explaining that you're in the area, you're doing private maintenance, and hopefully you will get a good return on your investment for them. The same with the brochures. People start to look for maintenance after Christmas. If you put something through a door or a business before Christmas, they're that interested, not so much this year the way things are, but they're usually that interested in Christmas parties and everything else that it either goes in the bin or it's filed away. You hit them after Christmas when they're looking at the budgets for the new year. That is when you need to hit them, because they're looking at the budgets and they're saying, oh, we haven't got anyone in place, we need to work out what this is going to cost. Or we have got someone in place who's charging this amount of money. Can we get some clarity as to what someone else would charge? And hopefully they come back to you and get a price from you, and hopefully you can turn that into a contract, guys. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe, and we will see you in 2021.